Every time you use a tool to help you out, whether it's stubbing with Sinon or drying things up with helpers, you gotta be sure you don't abuse things. So looking at this, well, we got a lot of green check marks. What could possibly be wrong? That's kind of fun. Why would there be problems? Well, the problem isn't with my code necessarily, it's with me. It's easy when you start working with helpers to say, I've got a lot of duplication in my code. I really should try and dry it all up. And for instance, take a look at this. We are doing some stubbing with our database, and it would be easy to think, well, geez, let's put this in a helper, because I'm probably going to need to use this database instance again later on. So here, I'll just move all the stuff into a helper. It makes perfect sense. Why not just export a stubbed database? That way I don't have to keep doing it over and over again in my code. If I want to have things be flexible, which I do, I can pass in some arguments. Those arguments can contain special return values if I want. So, for instance, if I want to return a specific kind of mission, I can pass that in the arguments. Otherwise, I can just return a new mission, as you see here. Well, that looks pretty good. What could possibly be the problem? Look at all the code I'm about to save. So let's take out all of this stuff, and I'm just going to say helpers.stubdb. There it is. Well, things look better, don't they? Let's run this and see what happens. It works. See, this is misleading, isn't it? You can only see the problem if I come over here to our review spec and decide to reuse our helpers. So let's instance up our mission control one more time. And for this, of course, I'll need to pass in a DB. So let's ask our helpers for the stub DB. You might be thinking at this point, why are you doing all this? Well, our mission control needs to be instanced, and I'll need to pass that DB into that instance because I need to pass mission control into our review process. Again, I'm using dependency injection here, and that review process is going to need to use mission control when we ensure that the role is compatible and when we accept the application as well. So I'm just preparing things. Well, taking a look at this a little bit longer, if you're a fan of dependency injection, you're starting to see something happen here, which is that your dependencies sometimes become rather large. This can quickly become a very big pain in the butt because as your processes grow and your injections grow, things become harder and harder to do. So people have responded by creating things called inversion of control containers. Nate Kohari, a friend of mine, created one of the most well-known ones for .NET called Ninject, and he also created one for Node called Forge. So if you're into dependency injection and want to use inversion of control, it's there. Just wanted to show you that. For me, right now, I think we're okay. Speaking of, now that I've wired this up, let's run our test just to be sure nothing is broken. Oh man. Let's take a look at this error. Attempted to wrap get mission by launch date, which is already wrapped. I didn't really do anything other than, oh yeah, I decided to move the instantiation and stubbing of our database down into a helper. Can you see what the problem is? In short, the problem is that our repository is a singleton, and we are trying to stub a singleton. This is our tool set telling us there's a problem. That problem came to light because I'm trying to be efficient here by using helpers. So a bunch of things have gone wrong all at once. This kind of stuff drives me insane because I've, one, tried to get too tricky, and two, I've kind of been using the wrong pattern all along and I didn't really notice it. This is the kind of thing that just drives me bonkers. But for now, let's see if we can fix this. Because maybe what I can do here is I can just see if our stub has already been wrapped. This is just not a good idea. So if you take a look at our wrapped method here, create next mission, it has all these properties, including this one here called display name. What I could do is I could just see if this thing has already been wrapped. I could use an if statement here, db.created_next or create next mission.display name, see if it exists. If it does exist, well, then don't wrap it again. If you're looking at this and you're saying, Rob, what are you doing? Yes, I will fix it, I promise you. I'm just going to show you that it works. Why am I showing you that it works? Because it is so tempting to chase bad code with more bad code. Here, I've actually made my test suite work with a failed solution. And it's so easy to back yourself into this hole without thinking clearly about how you got here in the first place. So let's take this out of our helpers. In general, it's a good idea to keep the stubs and mocks that you create in the test suite in which you're using them. So I'm just backing my way all the way back out of here. In fact, let's here put this in a before block so we're clear about how and when we're using it. There, that makes me feel a little bit better. And let's move the mission control variable above here so it's being set and we can use it down below. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Things aren't failing and I don't have that ridiculous code checking to see if something is wrapped.